Hello and welcome to Touchline from Casper and Mark Cameron. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Cas. Nice to be in studio. Today is an exciting chapter in the lives of Touchline as we finally speak to a well-known international coach, and we welcome Vlok Celliers into studio. So and you'll elaborate on that. But it's very exciting to have a South African that is plying his trade overseas and very successfully as well.
Yes. Hello, Vlok. Welcome to Touchline.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen, and I must rather say bonjour, comment ça va, très bien, which means how are you doing? All is good there in Amanzantoti, but thanks for having me on in the studio as your guest today.
Thank you very much for joining us. Just to introduce Vlok, Vlok currently is the kicking coach for the French national side. Well-known rugby player in South Africa, and we're going to talk about coaching tonight and how Vlok got involved in coaching.
Vlokkie, can I just put you under pressure there? Sorry, Cas. The photos that you sent through with yourself and the well-known scrum off and the fly off combination in the French, and then you standing in the middle of them. You know, as a Springbok fly off yourself, basically being the midget between those two guys. Nearly, how does that work?
I always been a midget. Doesn't matter where I go. Even my wife is taller than me, so I make peace with that long time ago. That I'll always be the shortest guy in the pictures or the smallest guy. So even when you're standing next to DuPont, I'm still smaller than him. So I'm used to that.
And it's frightening that everyone thinks the South Africans are so big, but there you stand.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like the hooker between the two props.
Yes, but then I have to remind them that I play in the back line. In my days when I was playing, and I think in your days as well, the backs was actually quite small guys, not the big the backline guys that we have today in the modern day of rugby.
No, definitely.
But in the tackle, they believe that you're 6'5", huh?
Yeah. Normally, I normally joke when I said when I was playing for Western Province, we have this. They have a book, and you all know we have a book before the game where they put in your name and they put in your length and they put in your weight. I was always like 90 kilos, and I was always like 189, just to look bigger on TV, which never happened. I was always 89 kilos, so yeah.
Good, cool.
Shame.
If we carry on with the coaching, yeah. Vlok, how did you get involved in coaching? From playing rugby, very successful rugby, how did you get involved in the coaching?
Quite funny. My last year at Province, Casper approached me to come and play for 3 years for the Cheetahs, and I say yes. So I joined the Cheetahs, and in my first year, I get a serious knee injury, and then I have to stop playing. And immediately at the end of that year, I get involved in coaching with the Iman, who's now currently the Celliers coach, and we start coaching together at Celliers. And after that first year, then the second year, then Heineken Meyer approached me in the Bulls, and he said, "You have this dream and vision to put together a whole professional coaching team. We have specialists around him and looking after certain aspects of the game." And then he asked me if I would join his coaching staff and to be the kicking coach for the Bulls, which also was very new to me as well. So I accept the challenge and the invitation, and never look back from 2003.
Okay. Then what motivates you the most as a coach? What keeps you coming back?
For me, I'm a type of person that get a lot of energy from other people, talking to other people, listen to other people, reading books, and do a lot of research. So for me, just to do a lot of research and reading what other coaches is doing, what make them better. I've actually following at the moment. I follow Serena of Venus Williams, coach Patrick Moretta Glow, who's actually a French guy, And we start chatting on Instagram now, and I have his number now. So we like once every second week I ask him 1 or 2 questions, and he's actually an unbelievable guy. He's coaching philosophy now. He changed Serena Williams. So that's the type of things that gives me energy, and that's the type of things that always bring me back to coaching, to always starting from scratch, and just to see the development with the players you're coaching, and to see the energy they're getting from your way of coaching, and that is to bring positivity and to build people up.
In saying that, now your involvement as the kicking coach in the rest of the team. I mean, not all the players are kickers. What is your involvement in the rest of the team as a kicking coach?
Yeah, obviously, with the French team, my first priority is to look after the kickers, and from 9 to 15, and then not to actually to give too much away, but I have to look more in depth to the kicking game. You have to analyze the opponents you play against. You have to find ways to put them under pressure, because nowadays all the teams in the world defense are so good. So you can't just keep the ball and keep playing and face after face, because you make your forwards, you make your players tired, and you stand the possibility of losing the ball through turnovers. So you need to find ways to getting in behind the defense. You need to find ways to put teams under pressure, and one of the ways is to have a good kicking game. So you have to analyze the opponents. You have to analyze your own kicking game to see where you can get better, and that's the way we're doing at the French team at the moment.
Vlokkie, just on that quickly, you know, from a viewer's perspective and the listeners that are going to be tuning in, you know, if you look at a normal rugby game, you would now think to yourself, technically, it's only your 9 possibly that does a box kick or so. You get your 10 kicking out of hand, and your 15 maybe trying to find space behind the wingers and that. But it's more involved than that, isn't it? I mean, you've got your centers that you need to train kicking left and right-footed grubber kicks and fielding them and so forth. So that's all your forte that you have currently with the French side. So it's more to it than just what the viewers look at when they see, let's say, the French now play against England, for argument's sake.
You're 100% correct, Mark. And you obviously you can't actually say the days of just kick from 9, 10, and 15 is over. You need to get a variety. You need to move the ball around, and within moving the ball around, you need to find ways to kick. Either is it from a 13, is it from 11, is it from a 14, is it from the 12 center, is it from the 3rd phase, is it from the 7th phase? All those things, all the things you have to analyze. You have to look at the games to see where the gaps is, and the more you have the variety of all 7 guys can kick in the time, the better it is for you to attack, and within that, applying pressure to other teams.
No, 100%. Thank you.
Then, your involvement as a national coach. What is your involvement in club rugby in France now, where you currently are?
So yes, I have to go and visit the clubs. I have to be involved. Even now, sitting here in South Africa at the moment, I'm still in contact with all the kickers at the clubs, and I have to give them feedback. I'm sending them 1 or 2 drills and stuff to do in the week. So I have to stay in contact with them, and I have to stay focused with them and in their development to make sure that their development is an ongoing process when we get together in July with our test to go to Australia.
Okay, if I can just ask there as well then, if you, let's say Toulon for argument's sake, let's say you visit them, would you then only work with the national players, or would you work with the players from that club as well? Do you guys have that relationship with the coaching staff or the professional teams?
Normally we have our, let's say we take flyers, we will have our Nitamac, we'll have our Jelliban, and we'll have our Louis Gabaniel, which is our top 3 flyers. But then you look at the guy like Hostai, who is at Pau. He's our 4th flyer, and then we have a 5th flyer. So normally some of the clubs, then the 2 guys are there, which is your number 4 and the number 5. So sometimes, as in Toulon, you will get 1 or 2 players that actually is not in the closer squad at 31, but they're in a bigger squad of the 45. So normally you also work with them as well, because you never know with rugby, it's an injury contact sport, that some of these guys will draft in sooner than later.
I actually think that's a very clever setup as well, because not only for the benefit of the national side, but those professional outfits obviously would benefit from something like that too. And sometimes, as a coach, you just need a different voice. But with you coming from a French side and the clubs being involved in that, they could only benefit from that.
Yeah, I also must say it's not that easy. Previously in the past, the relationship between the top 14 clubs and the French Federation was not that good, because there was always fights between the top 14 clubs and the federation, because the federation is not paying the national players. They've been under contract with the top 14 clubs. So it's always difficult to go into the clubs, because you go into their personal space and into their program in way of doing things. So that's one thing that Fabian's really good in getting the relationship back between the federation and the top 14. We're not the final product yet. There is still some places where it's difficult for us to get in, but luckily 9 out of 80% of the clubs, they're more than happy for us to come and join them and spend time with their players.
Oh, it can only benefit French rugby at the end of the day. So good luck to you guys, and well done on that.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Then, coaching a national team during this COVID pandemic, how did you guys cope with that? Having
the other day I said to my wife, since I started joining the French team last year, I'm involved for 14 tests, which 10 of the 14 tests was in isolation without any spectators. Only four tests that there was spectators, that was atmosphere. So it is very strange times. I think it's not good for sport not to have spectators. I think it's terrible. It's very, very bad. I mean, to go to Twickenham and there's no people there. You're driving in a bus on your way to the stadium, and it's like a Sunday afternoon drive in a small Karoo town where everybody's sleeping. There's nobody outside the stadium, and you go into the stadium, it's like everything is dead inside the stadium. There's no atmosphere there. You walk out into the field for a warm up, and there's no people there. I mean, it's just you and the other team there. So it's terrible. It's as I say, I don't want to repeat myself. It's not good for sport in general. And so it's first difficult to adapt to that, to get used to. There's no atmosphere, there's no people there, and then you have to get your players ready for them to play, and in this circumstances, conditions where there's no people there, and it's quite difficult. But the more you play, I would say the easier it is to play without people in the stadium. But long term, Mark, it's not good for sport in general, and you need people back. If it's golf, if it's tennis, if it's cricket, doesn't matter what sport it is. You need to get people back in the stadiums, and you need to get people back on the pavilions, and it's not good for us at the moment.
We agree, and I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the players take energy out of the spectators and that, so it's sad. So no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Right. It's what we also find is normally after a game, I know at test level, after a game, you go for a shower and you're dressed up, and then you go for a nice function where you can sit at the table. You can have a glass of wine or a beer with the other coaches and other players, and they function their speeches, and that is nice. And now after a game, you go to your change room. They go to their change room, and you shower, you have your beer in your change room, you get into the bus, you go back to your hotel. So you go from a bubble in the change room to a bubble in the bus. You go to your hotel, it's only you in the hotel, there's nobody else in the hotel, it's only you and the staff in the hotel. And that's it. And tomorrow morning you woke up, you in the bus, you go to the airport and you fly. And you stay in a bubble, you travel in a bubble. So that is, it's terrible.
So Vlok, if I can just ask on that, basically on the same question though. Obviously, as coaches, we also go through a phase where we might be negative or obviously positive, and you try and rub off on the players being positive. But when you're in a bubble like this, obviously as a coach, you become a little bit negative. How do you actually motivate your players to say, yes, we're playing England this weekend? I mean, that in itself should be motivation. I understand that, but I don't think the viewers will understand until you're physically in those circumstances yourself to say, I'm running out on Twickenham. I mean, some of them have run out there before, so it's not a motivation anymore. Playing for your country is a motivation, but to get these guys fired up, because you know you're not playing for anyone. You can just as well do a PlayStation game nearly, if one can refer it to that.
Yeah. I think what's important for any coach out there, and I think especially now the school rugby starting. Just the other day, I have a chat with one of the coaches at one of the big schools in South Africa, and I said to him, if you can sit down with your players and you can tell them as soon as possible that they have to adapt, that there's not going to be people in the stadium. You have to give them something else to play for. You can't just say, listen, the crowd will give you energy, your mom and dad will be there, because for the first time ever in their life, the mom and dad won't be at the field. So you need to give them something to believe in. You need to give them something to hold on to play for. I mean, and that's why you need to have a good functional team. You need to have a good story that you can tell in your team to keep the guys motivated to play for something. And luckily, we at the French team, and I know also when I spoke to Eddie Jones a few times, he said that luckily you work with professional players, so they can easily adapt from one game to another game, which make it easier for us to talk to the players and they know, listen, we're playing in the Six Nations tournament. There's a trophy to play. We play for world ranking, so there's a lot of stuff you have to play for, and that can serve as a motivation. But I think it's so much more difficult at club rugby and even at school rugby where the wife can't be there, the mom and dad can't be there. Now suddenly, nine out of 10 games, these guys play for their mom and dad. They play for their girlfriend. They play for their wife, and now their support is not there. So that will be the key. I think key ingredient for any coaches out there to find that middle way of keeping their players motivated.
I'm asking that because there's one thing for sure in the Six Nations that, and we can maybe elaborate on that slightly. We're running out of time because we really want to talk about Vlok Skop and that and your project. But the French side of 2021, I think we're definitely motivated. I know obviously you guys are playing for the Rugby World Cup as well in preparations, but there was no lack of motivation this year for the French.
No, definitely. It's our second year. We became second, and obviously we want to win the Six Nations. That's our ultimate prize. That we have to win the Six Nations before we go into the World Cup, just to get that self belief up, and just to get something out of the tournament before we go into the World Cup. But as I say, obviously I can't elaborate on that too much in public. But there's a certain goal that we set for us every year. What we want to achieve going forward into the World Cup. So there's a lot of boxes that we already ticked, and there's a lot of boxes that we still need to tick. Obviously, I can't say too much, but that's part of the motivation in the French team, that we're working towards a goal, and that we need to tick a few boxes every test that we play.
I think you're going to surprise a few teams. I don't think there's any surprise happening. They know it's happening, and yet again, well done to you guys.
Busy happening.
Yeah, thanks.
Look, if you can give anybody advice in getting involved in coaching, what would that be? What would be that one thing that you will tell a person?
The one thing, I mean, maybe you heard it a couple of times, but one thing that I take out of coaching, and if you talk to a lot of coaches, which I certainly make part of my DNA, is to, if you're a coach, doesn't matter which level you are, for me, it's like 2 or 3 things. I mean, there's a lot of points, but for me, it's 1 or 2 things. Is always number one, stay a student of the game. That's important. If you think you arrive, or you think you know too much, or you think I can't learn something, you're on a very dangerous road. And the second point for me is if you don't enjoy it anymore, it must be your passion. If you don't enjoy it anymore, and you're getting energy of standing at the field, you're getting energy of coaching and want to make players better and stuff, then don't do it. Then don't find another work for you. So you need to have the energy, you need to have the passion to work with players, doesn't matter at which level they are. And this afternoon, funny enough, I watched the school come asked me to work with 6 kickers, and they were from under 14 to the first team. And I even get energy just standing there and telling them to do a certain things. I can see how some of them are actually enjoying the kicking, and they can see, listen, this is actually making sense. So I even get energy from them just enjoying it. So, and you have to stay a student of the game. If you think I know enough and I'm not going to do any research, I'm not going to talk to any other coaches. So for me personally, I talk to rugby coaches, but I do a lot of research on other sports like tennis or on soccer or on basketball or rugby league. I do a lot of research what other coaches say, how they develop, how they improve, what is their coaching philosophy, what are they planning for the week, how do they get better, how they keep their players honest, how they challenge their players, because you can get something from every coach. And that's what I'm doing, and that keeps me honest, and that keeps me hungry every day.
And I tend to, as a coach myself, obviously not at your level, but as a coach myself, I also tend to feed off other coaches and see what they're doing. And if you take a drill, for argument's sake, you might not agree 100% with that drill, but you tweak it a little bit to fit into your plans and that. So I agree with you. I think if you think that you've learned everything, then maybe it's time to step down, because I also don't think it's fair on the players that you're trying to coach. So
definitely, you're 100% right, Mike. I will go and watch. Let's say I will go and watch a primary school game, and let's say 2 under 11 teams are playing, and the coaches are busy with the warm up. I will watch that warm up from a distance, but I promise you, and you can ask my wife, I promise you, I will watch that warm up. But within that, I already start inventing a new drill. I say, listen, I can take that drill, but I just invent it and tweak it here and change it there, and I can take it forward. So if you stand there and say, no, what are they doing? No, you can't do that. And then you're on dangerous ground. So if you can stay, that's why I said you have to stay a student of the game.
No, I agree with 100%. And, coming from an international coach like yourself, it's good to hear for the club and school coaches to know that there's always room for improvement and keep working hard, because ultimately you are there as a teacher of the game to the students, your players, So, but Vlokkie, just on a lighter note, and we started on this when the program started, and it's your fault for going there now. So, I just want to ask you, when you were with these youngsters between the 14s and the 18s, were they taller than you?
As I say, everybody's taller than me. Even this afternoon, with that under 14 guy standing there. I actually have, they take a group picture at the end of the training, so they send it to me, and I said to myself again, I'm actually the shortest guy in the group again.
So you had to fight.
Yeah. So sometimes at the French team, we will do restarts, and we will do kickoffs with restarts, and I was standing with the locks, with Bernard de Roon, Paul Willemsen, these guys, and actually talking to them. And then I have to look up to them. Sometimes it's strange to stand and talk to them and say, listen, I want them to do this, I want you to do this, and I have to look up to them. So yeah.
But you know what? It's nice to see you still humble and all of that. So I mean, regardless of your achievements and where you guys are going, you're still humble. So that's great. Vlokkie, just on quickly, if we can go a little bit more personal to Vlok Celliers himself. And obviously, I'm going to mention this now, but I think as a viewer of the game and following you, Vlok Skop is quite well known worldwide. And I can only assume, if you look at the French kickers, how they've developed since you've been there, a lot of your Vlok Skop, if not all of Vlok Skop, is what you actually implement within the French kicking side. How did it start? What do you do? How does it work?
Now, again, I don't think there's a secret ingredient in the way you coach. I think every coach have a different philosophy. And if you sit down, you talk to 10 coaches tonight, each coach will have his own philosophy. You will have 10 different philosophies. I learned over the years, working with individual kickers and working at the level that you're going to international level. I mean, there's one or two things that stand out for me, and that's my coaching philosophy. And it's based on 2 pillars for me. I work on trust and I work on relationship, and that's it. Technique doesn't bother me at all. Yes, technique play a big role, but How can I work on a kicker's technique if you don't trust me and if there's no relationship? So when I sit down with the French kickers last year in Nice, I make it a point to have a 30 to 45 minutes coffee chat with each kicker in the team, where I explain to him what is my philosophy, where I explain to him how I coach, and I said to him, my coaching is built on trust and relationship. I want you to trust me, and I need to have a relationship with you. Once you establish those two pillars, I believe you can actually go a big way and a long way with players. So for me, that is my coaching philosophy.
So if I can just ask then quickly, I saw a clip this afternoon with regards to one of your kicking techniques that you do is the tennis ball.
Yes.
Whatever it is. I was looking for the tennis ball, but I couldn't find it. But can you just explain what that is?
Yeah, the tennis ball is actually on the chin. And funny enough, I was having, when I was in Pretoria, having a coffee one day with James Kingston, and he was he won the SA Open, I think 2 or 3 times, and he play a lot of big tournaments overseas. And he said to me when he was struggling with his balance and to keep his head down and his follow through, he used a tennis ball to put on his chin to work on his follow through. And that's just a way of keeping your head down and keeping your head still, which is made massive important in kicking. And that's why I get the idea. So the tennis ball is just the idea of have a good body, have a good balance, and just to keep your head down once you strike the ball and have a follow through, just to work on that. And that's just as simple as that.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually brilliant. So I'm getting to say I didn't find it. I actually looked specifically, and then only when I came a bit closer, I thought, okay, that's where I was waiting for it to bounce off the ball and see where it bounces and all of that. So Vlokkie, if I can just ask quickly, this Vlok, you do like academies and that. So if whoever, whether it's schools or private or whatever, want to get in touch to follow this or to get coached by you or who the people that you've got involved, how do they go about it?
Normally they can just I always say to people they can go to my Facebook page, Vloks and Beer, and they can inbox me there, and I will normally get back to them and in contact with them. And funny enough, when I was the Bulls, Peter Wallenberg, one day just walked past me. He said, Vlokskop, how are you doing? And then Derek Auger come and Derek Auger say Vlokskop. So
started.
Yeah, that is where the Vlokskop actually started. And then the
royalties.
Yeah, then I have to be bankrupt if I have to pay them royalties. And then the Vlokskop just stuck from there on. And then later I just get this idea of starting a Vlokskop Foundation with the same name, because it's just similar to what I'm doing in the job I'm doing at the moment.
Okay, great, and it's great. So the whoever wants to can just go onto your page, and then they can obviously
Yes.
you there.
Yes.
Then one thing that we really want to discuss with you, and that we're quite excited about, and maybe getting involved from a Mamzamtoti Rugby Club, is to try and assist. You are very passionate, and I know Mornay Steyn is involved as an ambassador, and if you can just elaborate a little bit, but you are very involved with a project for Tekkies and Talks, where you collect and distribute to underprivileged and disadvantaged people. Tell us a little bit about that and how it started and things like that.
Now, obviously, after COVID, I just sit down and have a chat with my wife and said, listen, everybody's doing something, and yeah, I just feel on my heart we also need to do something, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to do food parcels or soup kitchens, because tomorrow the need will still be there, and that is good and that's brilliant. I want to do something that will be sustainable and that people can have for a long time. And then my wife came up with the idea of Tekkies and Talks, and I said that's a brilliant idea. Of course, we're in sport, we're in rugby, and there's so many kids that want to play soccer or wants to play rugby, but they don't have boots or running shoes. And second, not all of their parents have the money to go and buy a pair of boots, because you have to go and buy a pair of boots and running shoes. It costs you 2,000 rand, which a lot of households don't have. And in this COVID time, I think a lot of parents and households really, really struggle at the moment. So that's why we're starting this Tekkies and Talks project to get all the schools involved and some businesses, and say, listen, let's see how many we can raise, and then we will then distribute it into every area in the country where the needs is, and to put shoes on children's feet.
So is this you well done for that. Firstly, I think it's a brilliant initiative,
well
and obviously sport is in your blood, and hence the fact that you went that direction. And I think you need to pay your wife royalties on this as well.
I need to pay your royalties, yeah.
Flocky,
I need to pay a lot of royalties.
Just on that, is this just a South African project, or is it worldwide, or how are you guys operating it?
No, only in South Africa at the moment. And funny enough, a month or two ago, when he chatted to Morna, he said he always taken it for granted that he never have to buy shoes in his life, because he always been sponsored by Nike or Puma or whoever. So he never in his life had to go and walk into a shop and go and buy a pair of boots. The other day, he was walking into his garage, and he said there were 7 pairs of rugby boots lying in his garage, which he don't use anymore. So I think a lot of people can afford to give their old pair of shoes or boots to this project.
Okay, Vlok, so having said that, obviously it's not necessarily brand new tackies or
No.
second hand.
No.
So let's make it unique, so the listeners and the viewers would obviously be able to relate this wherever they are in South Africa. But because we're from Amanzimtoti, so let's bring it to Amanzimtoti now, and the Toti Rugby Club would like to get involved. So how do we get involved? How do we support you? What do we do? What's the initiative, and so forth?
It's brilliant. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And I think the best is I will let the people of Solidariteit Helpenhand from the head office in Pretoria get hold of you tomorrow. And then they will send the boxes. We have boxes that's actually been branded. And they will send the boxes direct to your rugby club. And you can just put the boxes there, and you can just ask the people close to you, the rugby community, to bring their old shoes or rugby boots to that. And after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or how long, we will also come and collect the boxes from you, and we will take it to our regional office in Durban, and from there we will distribute it then to wherever the need is in the whole KwaZulu-Natal.
Brilliant. So we will definitely take that project on from our side. Also just to put out, so our club turns 75 this year, so it's our anniversary this year, and we'll make it part of our anniversary to punt this quite a bit on social media and so forth.
I want to say earlier that Amanzimtoti is one of the oldest rugby clubs in South Africa, if I was not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so we as all the other clubs, we fighting hard to progress and go forward. You know how it is. But not to deviate from this brilliant project of yours, if you can also just from a viewer and a listener's point of view, just talk about it's second-hand tackies and second-hand tocs. I understand that, but you don't want broken ones and whatever. So correct. So how do you decide?
Yeah, you don't actually want shoes where they have holes in, where you can actually put your finger in. It must still be in a way that you can use it, and you can put on, you can run with that, and you can put on and play with that. The people mustn't see it as opportunity. That is a good way of getting my garage clean and put all the old shoes lying around there. We don't want that. So anything that's still usable, that the people can put on their foot and still run and play soccer or rugby work, it is brilliant for us.
Okay, no, brilliant. We'll definitely support you in that, and obviously you and I will stay in contact, and we'll definitely make it happen. Just before I hand over to Cas, one thing that I did want to ask you, and obviously we spoke about Vlok now and tackies, and I say that with respect, especially the project. That's the main ingredient that we wanted to talk about tonight, obviously to assist you guys to try and get it going more than you guys have done already. One thing that I do want to ask you, and Cas alluded to how you got into coaching and that. Just a question is, how did you get involved in French rugby, and why there?
There's a question that I've been asked a lot. I always said when I was at the Bulls, and the Bulls was in the typical, the pinnacle 2009, 2008 when we won the Super Cup and the Currie Cup. I always say that one day in my life I want to coach the international team, and obviously my first choice was Vlok. It was a big dream of me, and then I moved down to the Stormers, and again I still have this dream and a belief that one day maybe the Springboks will call me up to get involved on an international level and go to the World Cup. And then that didn't happen, and me and Fabian came a long way back. 95 World Cup in South Africa. Then Fabian stayed behind with Nick Mallet at False by. And then he played a few games here, and then Province called him up, and he played for Province, and the two of us play together 9 and 10. And then we lost contact for a couple of years, and then 3 years ago he's coaching Toulon, and then we connected again, and then he asked me to come over to Toulon and work with the kickers and setting a kicking plan in place for him and work. And then that one visit became a second visit, became a third visit, became a second year. And then we just kept contact from there. And then he said to me that that one day there's a good possibility that in the future that he can be the French coach going forward, and then we have to keep contact. So just before the World Cup in 2019, he said to me that he's taking over, and then we will keep contact. And then after the World Cup, he approached me and asked if I'm still interested in joining the French team. And I didn't even think twice. I mean, if the one door closes, I'm a big believer that the second door will open. And this is my second door with the French team. I'm with the international team. And it's a dream come true for me. And a lot of times I said I still have to pinch myself to realize what I'm busy with and where I'm coaching. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just happy where I am.
I'm glad for you, and unfortunately, like we say, a lot of our coaches are overseas. You know, we can mention many of them. It's a big loss for South Africa, and please don't kick us into a losing final in France come the World Cup.
Interesting, Cas and Mark, with the 6 nations this year, between the 6 teams, I think roughly, if I'm not mistaken now, there were 14 South Africans involved in the 6 nations this year, between the players and the coaches, the Peter de Villiers, the Franco Schmidt, all the players. So it's 14 is unbelievable.
And may that flag fly high for South Africa. You know, and it is just. I mean, it's a business. It's your livelihood, and if you get successful and wherever you're coaching, so be it. And yeah, I can just say from my side, obviously from a touchline side, all the best and well done, and may your dream continue soaring with all the passion that you've got and all your projects that you do. You've obviously got a good heart, and you can see that in that young French side as well. You've got a massive role to play there, so well done on that.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Cox. I really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you very much.
Just one question from our side. What is Vlok Celliers' vision after the French national side?
Yeah, I don't like
you need to think
to look too far in the future. Again, I have to bring my wife in here. She said she still believes that we're gonna sign on for another 4 years. That is a possibility that Fabian said that if we're doing well in the upcoming World Cup, it's a strong and a good possibility that we can stay on for another 4 years. So that will be good. Yeah. We definitely don't coach with that in the back of the mind. But yeah, if that happened, that would be absolutely brilliant. If that not happened, surely other doors always will open. But at the moment, all our energy and focus going to 2023. But we always keep that at the back of our mind, because that there can be a second tenure of another 3 to 4 years.
No, definitely.
Well done. Vlok, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time and your input. Very nice listening to all the stories and your philosophies. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, really appreciate it. And thanks, Mark. We'll keep contact, and thanks for your time and the work you're doing for club rugby. I'm coming from club rugby. I played for Oudtshoorn in the SWD club rugby. So I know how it feels to play on a Saturday afternoon. George against Nyasnaau, George against Heidelberg, George against my first year at Province also I played for Police, and then I played for Noordlikers. So I came from club rugby, and I know what that is. Club rugby is a big goal where the money is going in, but you can't see it because it's a lot of cost to run club rugby. So all the best for your guys and the work you're doing.
Vlok, if I can also just ask, we associated now together and we chatting, and obviously we're going to be following up quite a bit with Takis and your boot projects. And obviously we'll have as I said to you earlier, we chat with Mornay Stein maybe later on to keep working on the specific project. But when you are in the Durban area, give us a shout. You're more than welcome to come into studio and chat with us and come to the rugby club and share your knowledge and that there. We'd appreciate that. And may all your visions and whatever you have be successful for you and keep going strong.
Thanks, guys. I definitely will do that once I'm in Durban. I will do that. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to say in French, Adame, which is have a good sleep and see you tomorrow, Adame.
Adame, thank you. Keep well. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.